Good afternoon. I'm Parisa Norouzi, and this is Taking Action on WPFW 89.3 FM. We come to you every Tuesday bringing you information and inspiration so that you can take action in our city to fight displacement, save our schools and communities, stand up for justice, build our power, and hold government officials accountable. Taking Action is produced by the grassroots organization Empower DC, and we welcome your feedback and show ideas. You can email us at takingactiondc@gmail.com or call Empower DC at 202-234-9119. I'm really happy to have some friends in the studio who are going to be talking about a really powerful, innovative, important initiative that they're working on called Tightshift Laboring Cooperative. Juan, Reid, and Allison Basile are here from Tightshift, and part of the reason why we were playing that tribute to Ella Baker as we came in is because Ella Baker, some of you may know, was foundational in the co-op movement, especially in Harlem in the 20s and 30s. I mean, early in the co-op movement, supporting the organizing of people coming together to create the institutions and create the opportunities that we need to sustain our communities, and do it in a way that is anti-capitalist, which we may talk about a little bit what that looks like. So thank you both for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
So I want to just start at the very beginning, because I'm not sure that, a lot of people probably don't really know what a co-op is or a worker co-op. So Juan, can you like real 101, like the basics, what is a worker co-op?
A worker co-op is a worker-owned business that's operated, ran, profit shared by its workers.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. That's yeah, exactly, right? And Allison, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, and worker co-ops can be all different sizes. So the smallest worker co-op's 3 people, but the biggest one in our country right now has about 2,000 people, Cooperative Home Care Associates in the Bronx. And in other countries, they're even larger than that. So in Spain, there's a cooperative, Mondragon, that has over 80,000 worker owners between the couple hundred worker co-op network.
Mm-hmm. And can you share a little bit about how did that come about? Do you know who had the first idea about co-ops, or I guess maybe, it was something that people always did, but then, at some point folks had to name it and classify it for the IRS and everybody else. So can you share a little bit about the background of the co-op movement?
Different places have different movements. So some people talk about Rochdale in Europe and those the organizing that happened and the cooperatives that started. But different, as you said, yeah, mm-hmm. Cooperative living has been happening since humans have been here, and on the African continent, in Latin America, and every place has their own kind of cooperative history. Mm-hmm. In our country, the cooperative history is really closely tied to the civil rights movement. So yeah, that Ella Baker was very timely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you mentioned Spain and Mondragon, and I just remember, hearing about that. It's something that folks should Google if you haven't heard of Mondragon, because my understanding is that it was a whole town that once the industry packed up and left, everybody who lived there was like, okay, well, we're just going to reopen, but we're going to reopen it and we're going to own it and we're going to run it. And so pretty much everything in the town became, a worker co-op. And of course that was decades ago, so I don't know if that's still the case, but what an interesting, example of, folks aren't making enough money. The big corporations feel like they're not making enough money off of us, and they get up and move and go somewhere else. What happens? Can we take it into our own hands? And so I think, Juan, like that's kind of what you guys have done. You had a need, and then it wasn't being fulfilled elsewhere, so you took it into your own hands. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and sort of what led you to even be part of something like this?
Well, I'm born and raised in Washington, D.C., in the Bloomingdale area, and, it's the typical ghetto story. Both my parents was on drugs. I didn't know my dad. I caught my first charge at 10 years old, and the system raised me. Like, the streets raised me, just that environment. That's all I seen. That's all I knew. I knew no other life. Everything else was a story, a fantasy, a sitcom. And when I was 18, I got locked up and went into the adult system, and I did 14 years. And 7 of my last years was spent in solitary confinement.
I can't imagine.
And I came home from solitary confinement. No pre-release, no teach me how to do a resume, like nothing. Bye. We got your cell for you when you come back. A CO actually told me on my way out the door, I will see you when you get back. And I came home and people embraced me, my family, you know, you got to support, but people, it's a struggle out here. And food leave quicker. Water bill higher since I've been home. And
that's right.
Nobody wasn't hiring me. Like, and I was trying, I was getting help from people rubbing shoulders with their connections. My son trying to get a job, and people give me a shot, then they find out my history and they scared, or your colleagues are uncomfortable around you. So I'm like, what is it to do? But I can get a gun. I can easily get some drugs. And I was faced with that reality again. I was back into the lifestyle just to survival mode. That was easy for me. That's comfortable for me. And I was tired. I got back into addiction, and I was tired. I experienced too much in my life and seen too much and learned too much through them experiences to be out here watching the world just operate like it operate right now. I was fighting for that negative stuff. I can fight for something positive, and that's what I'm. And it's just once I put it in my mind and my heart, this ain't my life. Everything just started coming to me. Them opportunities and the people that I used to see walk by me every day and tell me the same, hey, it's an organized thing going, it's a protest going. I was letting it rush me. Now I'm listening. Yeah, I want to try something new. And that's when I met Allison. She was living around Bloomingdale, told me about co-ops, and we went on journeys just learning. And at that point in time, I didn't have a job, so I was out here. I was selling grilled food. I was selling hot dogs, everything on the grill, waters outside, on Craigslist, doing any kind of odd jobs. And one of my slogans was, I run a tight shift. And, you know, we just filled out grants and, like, got approved and got the LLC, like, and we up and running now. So, and it just give me a purpose.
And so what when you guys met and started thinking about this and building towards it, how long has that been till today?
About a year and some change, maybe.
Yeah, maybe a year and a half.
Okay, that's not so bad. Yeah, you guys. So tell the listeners about Tightshift. Like, what do you guys do? What's your
Tightshift Laboring Cooperative? Once again, is a workers-owned company, and we provide moving, landscaping, home cleaning, office cleaning, property management, any kind of odd job, any kind of service, anything positive and constructive. And we just build. Like, I know bums and homeless people that go to Home Depot and get all these jobs from people that exploit them because they on drugs, or they gonna drink the money up, so they gonna pay them a little bit, but they build houses. They don't got credentials, but they build houses. They can do anything. They can fix cars. Them mechanics. Like, mechanics make $20, $30 an hour. Why is you giving this man $30?
Yeah.
Like, it don't make sense. Like, and we just gotta change that. And why? We gotta look at people and find out their gifts and cultivate them.
Hey, I'm with you on that. So tell me so how many people are part of the co-op now? How many workers are part of the core? Because I'm assuming you guys have a structure where you have to be real invested and real involved to be one of the owners. Right now
we are at 9, 2 full members and 7 apprentice members.
Okay, that's cool. And so you mentioned some of the types of jobs that you tell us about a couple, like what are some of the real jobs that people have hired you for, that you could sort of give the audience an idea of, like, well, we did this.
How about the fence?
Ella Baker Cooperative in Uptown. They wanted to extend their parking space, so we moved their fencing and changed the posts, and that was our first time doing it.
Okay.
Like, and we found somebody in the neighborhood that don't have a job, and he know how to do that, and we told him what we doing, and he was like, he got time. He taught us, and the guys was just so like, this fencing, like, we just put up a fence. And then they understand how much it costs, how much the fencing costs. They understand everything, how much we charge. It ain't no, hey, just do this, dig this. I'm going to give you $13 an hour. And at the end of the year, I'm going to get a profit back. I got a decision. I got to vote. If I don't like something in the meeting or what's going on, I can voice my opinion and actually be heard. That gives them a sense of purpose. They beginning to take pride in it and see what the vision of this.
So I want you to talk a little, you just mentioned meetings and decisions, so I want you to talk a little bit more about that, because this is obviously not a regular job, right? You don't just come in, you do what your boss tells you to do and then leave. Like, it sounds like you have to be way more involved. I want to also just mention to the listeners that if you want to call with a question for Allison or Juan, the number is 202-588-0893, and those questions can include, hey, I got this job that, would you do this type of thing? Because we're definitely trying to support Tightshift, and we're going to talk about an event they have coming up as well, which is another way that you can support. But folks, I'm like racking my brain. Okay, what can I hire them for? Allison, you were going to chime in. You were about to say something.
I was just going to share that moving and hauling jobs are really great for us. Moving and hauling, just those industries tend to have kind of higher margins, so it's easier to build like a wealth building institution that can pay people living wages here in DC. And then the cleaning and landscaping are also great, particularly when there's some kind of recurring job. So someone needs something every couple of weeks or every month, and that really helps fill out folks' schedules and get closer to full-time work. Yeah.
So talk about what it looks like to really be part of this. You mentioned meetings and just so folks, it's a big commitment, it sounds like. What type of commitment is it? I mean, if you really want to build a worker co-op, what kind of time you got to put in to make that possible?
I think the hardest aspect of this is getting outside yourself. Because it's not about you, and we thrive on power. Like it scripts power. It ain't no power. The power is in the unit. Just like your hand, I ball it up. It's powerful. I open my fist. You can break any finger you want. So we got to stick together like that. And it is though. It's like. We have a system where it's like 1,000 hours before you become a member, and 200 of them hours are non-paid, and like a $500 buy-in, which is no pressure because we come up with a system where a certain amount, however, whatever work for you. And it's bigger than a business. That's our little motto. It's bigger than a business because it's a family, it's a community, and the inner work, our personal lives, we just all involved, like we a family, and we support each other in every aspect, mentally, emotionally, however.
Yeah. Which is probably the best part and the hardest part at the same time. Because co-ops are your people, so people working together. You're always going to have times when that's challenging. I lived at Ella Jo Baker Co-op for 10 years and was a member of that, and it's an amazing co-op, but like any co-op, it's made up of the members, right? So, or of the owners. So, yeah.
And I think it's always balancing the tension of making sure, like in our case, if someone's really struggling, like even outside of the co-op, making sure we're there for them and helping them get the support they need, providing support ourselves. And also that balance of making sure it's not hurting everyone else, like we're not putting other people's work in jeopardy. Right. So it's always that balance of not leaving people behind, but also making sure that the collective is thought about too.
Yeah. So, Allison, do you have many examples of other worker co-ops in DC? Is there a history of that here locally?
So there is a history. In the 80s, then Mayor Berry created a Commission on Cooperative Economic Development, and there was really an intention around using cooperatives as a strategy to build economic power for all people. Over the years, that faded away, and now in DC we have a handful, and most are in the startup stage. So we have a dog walking collective, Brighter Days, that is up off the ground and functioning well. Zenful Bites is a catering company. There's a childcare cooperative starting in the associated with a housing co-op, and then there's one starting east of the river. There's a grocery co-op starting. So a lot of these are in the early stages.
It's like the new wave of it, because I think there was, like you said, you know, a period in DC where there was more. And do we still have a co-op taxi cab company? At some point we did. I don't know if we still do. Do you know?
I don't think anyone has been able to get in touch or knows right now.
Okay, I think we have a caller. Caller, what's your name and your comment or question?
Hey, my name is Mark, and I got a question actually. Did I hear him right? 200 hours free? Unpaid hours?
Yeah.
The hours are, it's not really work though. It's like trainings, classes, and
meetings. That
and I wouldn't. It's really not unpaid though, because the money is the work. I want to teach them that their value is in their knowledge, not in how much you got. Your worth is not determined on how much you got, but what you do with what you have. And we just got to teach them. So, and we have to do that because the training is important. We want to be professional.
Yeah, I mean, starting any business, there's sweat equity that's put in. Juan and I have put in thousands of hours.
Yes.
And so, you know, for example, this weekend, the barbecue that we'll share more about, it's, you know, an example of those hours would be people helping cook out. We'll be selling plates, and that'll be a fundraiser to help us buy our equipment.
Go ahead and give the rest of the details, and we'll repeat it again later. But for folks who want to come to the barbecue, which is sounding really fun and good.
Yep, so that's going to be happening on Saturday, this Saturday, from 2 to 6 p.m. The address is 235 R Street Northeast, and Juan and others will be on the grill. And there's also going to be other local vendors. There's going to be astrology readings, Reiki sessions, people selling their crafts. So it should be a really fun day.
Cool. And what kind of equipment are you guys trying to purchase? What are you raising?
Moving truck, everything like lawnmowers. But basically, our basic need right now is the moving truck. To get insurance for the moving part of the company, and that's like she said, that's the most marketable industry right there. Real high margins. So,
what are you able to take in-kind donations too? So if somebody had a truck and they wanted to donate it, or like you mentioned, lawnmowers, you know, all of that stuff. What's your wish list then? I mean, what else is on that wish list if folks out there, you know, may have some equipment that they're not using anymore?
Any landscaping equipment, lawnmowers, shovels, drills, any equipment, like any help, like labor, just even shopping with us. You know, just
or help, like if there's somebody out there that may have done, like you said, the guy who did fences and knew how to do fences and taught you how to do it. You know, if there's people out there who have a certain skill like that, maybe, you know, building a
even
stone
offering
wall,
like your knowledge. Like, I know how to do this. Would your guys be interested in learning how to do this? And man, all that help, all that. And
so, where can they call, or how can they hit you up if they have something like that to offer?
We have a website, tightshift.com, and Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Tightshift Laboring Co-op. So we have all them aspects. You can get in contact with us, and we respond to everybody, you know, as fast as we can.
Okay, excellent. So I'm just wondering if we could talk a little bit more about sort of the context that this is happening in, which is our city and what's going on in our city, and like, you know, the inequity that exists, the fact that there's all this development and all this wealth pouring into the city, but like your own story, and probably, I'm assuming, a lot of people that you know probably are not benefiting much from all this new wealth coming into the city. In fact, in a lot of cases, it gets harder. Like you said, you came back home, everything was more expensive, and it sounded like you were talking about facing workplace discrimination also. Yeah. So how in the context of that, do you think that what you guys have been building is a model that should be replicated, that the city should be supporting? And have you received any support from the city at all?
City-wise, I
can share a little bit about what's been happening recently with the city. So there's a person named Kate in DSLBD, the small business division of DC government, and because there's been an upswell of interest in worker cooperatives, there's now a stakeholder group that meets every month to talk about how to advance worker co-ops and DC government support of it.
Nice.
So there's actually a meeting for that next Monday at 1 p.m. at Impact Hub DC at 419 7th Street Northwest. And those meetings have been happening monthly. People are talking about what it would mean to have a permanent staff person in DC government who's advancing the cooperative agenda. People have been talking about what kind of financing could be created in partnership with local community development finance institutions. That really is a type of financing needed for startup worker co-ops, because there's really not that available right now.
Yeah, because there seems to be a lot of emphasis on helping new businesses and certain corporations stay in the city, but I haven't seen much at all that really is supporting the people who've been here and returning citizens as one, subsection of that group, starting their own businesses, and starting their own worker-owned businesses. So I think, what you guys have going is something that should become, use it as.
And I think we have to likely to come out of our things that are on the easier side. So it's easy to kind of incorporate the business technical assistance so that they know what worker co-ops are too and could give advice on them. But what's really needed if worker co-ops are ever going to be big here and significant is significant both money but also particularly land. Like with the cost of land and buildings being so high in DC, it's just impossible to compete. And so when we have new developments and luxury businesses get the spaces, rather than businesses like worker co-ops that are really paying better benefits for DC residents, we don't see that kind of preference right now, and that's the kind of thing that we want to see. And I think that's going to take some power building, and other stuff that might happen more easily. I think will be more kind of window dressing and nice stories.
Yeah, you got to be careful about that, because they will co-opt and then they sell it as like, oh, look how much we did. I'm glad you brought that up about the land. When you were talking, I was wondering, so where are you going to store all this equipment? Because even that, is like, I don't know, maybe somebody in the group has a garage or something, but otherwise it's an expense that you have to cover. Is that one of your concerns? I guess maybe storage space is one of the things that somebody could donate, right?
Yeah, that too. Or we can build a shed.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to do. We're going to build a shed.
Okay.
We used to, it was a point in time in this world where it wasn't no buildings. It wasn't none of this. We built it.
Yeah.
We can still build.
Right.
Building, that ain't over yet.
Yes. Okay, good. You mentioned the access to land, and I wanted to just make a plug for folks to really be looking at. There's a plan in the city called the Comprehensive Plan, and it's supposed to be the document that the city uses to kind of guide development. And there could be some rules set forth in that plan that they have to follow. So years ago, we actually tried to get legislation passed that would have forced the city to look at public property in a different light before they would ever be able to give it away to developers that are building condos. They'd have to look at it for community development, including things like worker-owned co-op space, small business incubation space. And I think we need to, push for that again. And the comprehensive plan is something that the city is looking at right now, making amendments to. And we're going to be co-hosting a meeting for people to learn more about it and help us submit our ideas for what the amendment should be. It's on Saturday, May 6th from 12 to 4 at a church in Southwest. And we'll be reminding folks, we'll probably do a show about it in a couple weeks from now to help build up for that. But again, we have public land and public money in this city going to support institutions that are already wealthy and have their own. I mean, we could name so many of them. The stadiums, of course. And,
that's the plan.
Right.
Keep the rich rich and the poor poor.
So talk about, how do worker co-ops survive in a capitalist, society that really people, like you said, value that, making the rich rich, and they don't mind if the poor stay poor. So, how do we overcome that and promote co-ops?
Yeah, I think it depends a little on the context. Like, there are parts of Italy, for example, there's a region where a third of the whole economy is already worker co-ops. So there's strong policies for it. I mean, there's large-scale funding mechanisms and technical assistance. So it's sort of like, that's a very different context than we have, right? Where we have just a handful and a pretty developers run the city, basically. So I think I see worker co-ops as being these other institutions that can both help us organize for those larger policy changes that we need, enforcing the comprehensive plan, things like that. And we have to stick together. I mean, there's ways, even just with the handful of worker co-ops in DC, that we've been really meaningfully supporting each other. We're going to do another job with Common Good City Farm with their fence. That's really great for us. And someone who works for Zenful Bites, Josephine, works there. The dog walking co-op helped contribute towards our equipment. And we've used Zenful Bites catering, that kind of thing. So I think really sticking together, keeping our dollars amongst each other and the supporters of co-ops as much as we possibly can, and then thinking about the power that we're building, how we can use that to change these larger questions. Because even we need affordable worker cooperative and other cooperative space, but the housing question is so relevant for us and for everyone. Yeah.
We have another caller, so I want to welcome you. What's your name and your comment or question?
My name is David Allen.
Hi, David.
Hello, Dave.
Have y'all checked out the ANC and the councilman? See, when you do taxes, or when you own land in the city, the district owns the property. The ANC, let's say if a person got a vacant lot or a vacant building, the ANC is the person that holds that key to that. You can get them for $1. $1.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that tip. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And I do want to mention to the other listeners, if you want to call in with a comment or question for Juan or Allison about worker co-ops and about Tightshift in particular, you can call 202-588-0893. If you've been listening, you heard that, it's a really important worker co-op that's been created by DC natives who, some of whom have experienced incarceration and coming home and facing workplace discrimination, and took it into their own hands to create a kind of business that can really support them and their families long term. So Juan, what is your hope for this? Like, what's your vision for, I don't know, your 3-year plan, your 5-year plan, your lifetime plan? Where do you want to go with this?
With the lifetime. I'm thinking big. Okay. Just a one-stop laboring shop, and the plan for Tightshift is not really personal. It's global. Just imagine a world where all the businesses are owned by the workers. It's no one people getting rich. Yeah. Imagine that. Imagine how much most crime is financially motivated. Most drug addictions is based on depression and bad conditions of living.
Yeah.
Everything would change.
Yep.
It's going to be a lot of work to be done still, but a lot will change quick. And co-ops is in a nutshell, is killing slavery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
2017 in D.C., we finally abolishing slavery for real. This is the real Emancipation of Proclamation.
Mm-hmm.
Owning your own.
Yeah.
This land is for everybody. This is our land. It was created for all human beings.
Right.
It don't matter what color. It don't matter what you like to do, what you like to eat. Nothing. And we need to take care of it before it be too late for anybody to dwell here. So,
I mean, I don't. Some people might hear what you just said about, this is about abolishing slavery, and it may not take you seriously, but I think you're right on point, because if you look at anything that's happening in the city in the name of helping people, it's actually not giving them anything, any control, any ownership, any long-term support. There's real temporary support that you can get if you jump through a lot of hoops and are able to, be eligible for it. But there's nothing, not even, any kind of development that claims it's to help low-income people. At the end of the day, none of the people who are even if you get a chance to live in the place, you still don't own anything, control anything. You don't have, often, most of the time, unless it's a co-op, you don't really have a voice in how things are run, and so
like you said, yeah. if they sell a company, your job not secure.
Mm-hmm.
They can sell out, and then you fired. All right, we don't need you no more.
And also slavery in an even more direct way, because how many D.C. residents, particularly black D.C. residents, are locked up? Mm-hmm. And do you want to speak to that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you referenced it, but yeah.
The slavery component.
Yeah.
Well, the slavery never was abolished in the first place, and
mm-hmm.
it was changed to the prison system.
Mm-hmm.
I was in institutions that built bulletproof vests for the Army, Victoria's Secret underwear that y'all women like to buy. Yeah, they pay inmates 9-12 cents an hour to make them and charge you $100 probably pair of drawers. Slavery.
Yeah.
Even out here, in slavery, you can't own no person. How I'm gonna pick cotton? You had to feed slaves. It was expenses to owning a person. Once slavery was abolished, so to speak, everything had a price tag. Slaves didn't have to buy food when they were slaves. They didn't have to buy clothes when they were slaves. They didn't get paid no money to buy anything. Once slavery gone, everything a price tag. Okay, but we're going to pay you this, charge you this for everything. You still a slave because you ain't got nothing. You don't own nothing. We need our own. And I feel the help, all the assistance, our help gonna come from ourselves. It's a lot we can do amongst each other without no grant, without no policy changing. They don't dictate how we should deal with each other.
But you talked a little bit about how you got your mind to that place, right? Like you went through all of the other other places in your mind too. You fought off depression and addiction and all of this. So what was the key for you to get to this place where you have the ability to recognize your own power and also, the possibilities of, that what we could create? Because, I think a lot of people are kind of stuck in, the immediate hurt that they're in, to be able to have that vision. How'd you get there?
One of the things that I think people will really sympathize or really feel me is my solitary confinement time. I did 7 years consecutive in solitary confinement. Most of them days was 24 hours in the cell, no fresh air, paint on the window. I can't see the sun. And that's a lot of time to think. But when you've been through a life I have, it's torturous. It's traumatic. Definitely when you fighting for your rights in there as a human being. And that's what I was doing. I could have did 3 years and did 14 years. it's easy to go to jail. It's hard to get out. That's true, Bill.
Yeah.
And I guess you gotta have a will. I'm a fighter. I'm a survivor, and I was destroying myself. And just being away from drugs, I couldn't run and hide from nothing in solitary confinement. Though that's inhumane. You gotta deal with yourself. There's no one else there but me.
Right. Yeah.
And my best payback wasn't to die. If I ain't like how the system did me, it ain't to die. It ain't to come back and go back to jail or come back and just have a revenge on, just forget life. Nah. Oh, this y'all playing? I'm gonna stop it.
You're inspiring, man. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you're a great speaker. I think a lot of people, need to hear you, need to hear your story, both on the community side and the policymaker side. And so I just want to commend both of you. I know you guys have been working really hard to make this happen, and I want to encourage everybody listening to figure out a way to support Tightshift. So you got some equipment to donate, you got some money to donate, or you're going to come out on Saturday and meet Juan. You'll be there. Meet Allison, right?
Eat that good food. Torch.
Okay. Get a plate. And what'd you say? Saturday, 2 to 6.
235 R Street, Northeast. We getting it in. We're going to have all kinds of food, events, music, just building.
And tightshift.com. Is that right? Okay. Well, again, folks, figure out what you got in your closet that you need to donate equipment-wise. And, if you've got space, if you've got a place for these young people to build this company. And you guys are welcome back anytime. So just,
And one more thing. Yes. Thank everybody out there. Movement is a verb.
Okay. Thank you both for being my guests today. Thanks for listening to Taking Action. Stay tuned for Inside Out, but first the news with Gloria Minot.